Really quick, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on Old One-Eye, make sure you check that episode out because, my goodness, this commander has too much power. But don't leave just yet because on this episode with this new commander, I'm going to be asking the question, so just how broken is this? But really quick before we jump into things, blame any in the comments below just for fun. Thank you. And now with all that said, let's jump into it. So, okay, I've said this like every single episode because I am not good at pronouncing these names apparently. Here we go. Imotekh? Let's go with that. The Stormlord, a 3/3 Necron that costs 2 black. It has, oh, here we go again. Pharaon? Whenever one or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, create 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. And on top of that, Grand Strategist at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature control gets +2/+2 and gains menace until end of turn. So obviously, the part of this commander that can be broken with the right build and the right cards is definitely that Grand Strategist part. I mean, pumping a creature and giving it menace, just absolutely broken. Okay, I'm kidding. That's not a bad trigger at all. I mean, being able to get one of your creatures through is great, you know, and pumping it. Yeah, being able to get 2 artifact creature tokens into play every single time one or more artifact cards just leave your graveyard. Doesn't matter where they go. Doesn't matter what kind of artifact card it is, you know, whether it's a creature artifact, you know, or just an artifact or whatnot. That has a ton of potential. Lately, Wizards seems to have been limiting cards quite a bit. You know, they tend to have the text activate only as a sorcery, which is some of my least favorite text in Magic. And also another one of those is this ability triggers only once each turn. But with this, there is no such limitation. This triggers as many times as you essentially can have it trigger in a turn. And yeah, there are definitely ways for that to be basically an infinite amount of times. Just as many times as you want to when you've got yourself set up in the right way. So yeah, have fun with your infinitely large army of, you know, Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. And also other infinite things that we'll get to here in a bit. But yeah, this commander has a ton of potential and even the potential to go off pretty quickly with the right build. Now, do you have to build this in a broken way? Absolutely not. If you just want to go, you know, artifact tribal, essentially utilizing graveyard and, you know, ways to get things out of your graveyard and, you know, exile from your graveyard and whatnot and make a ton of tokens, yeah, you can definitely go in that direction as well. And there are plenty of fantastic cards in mono black that can help you out. And yeah, if you are interested in this commander, make sure you check out my link in the description below that has the cards to consider for this commander that I'm going to be talking about on this episode. Because when a new extended commander like this one is spoiled, well, sometimes cards that work well with it do go up in price because players are like, oh, I'm just going to pick up those cards ahead of time. I mean, I believe the product actually comes out on October 7th, but still, players tend to go get cards for the commanders that they're excited about ahead of time. So yeah, if you're interested, make sure you check out that link. And now with all that said, let's jump into the cards. Like I mentioned, with a very, fast build with this commander, you can do some pretty gross things really quick. And yeah, of course, you've got access to stuff like a Dark Ritual in mono black that can really get things going. An instant for a black that says add black to your mana pool. This can just hypercharge your start to the game where you can just get out to a huge lead really quickly if, again, you are going for, a broken build. I mean, I'm sure, if you have, Magical Christmas Land too, there are definitely, certain hands that you could have where you also could just win, probably even on turn 1 if you really wanted to and you really had a hyper-efficient build with this commander. Again, being in black, you also have access to the best tutors out there too, so yeah, setting yourself up to win very quickly probably is not going to be all that difficult. Again, if that is the kind of build that you want to go for, and if that is, well, Jewel Lotus, yeah, that can definitely help you get your commander out incredibly quickly to get things off and running. An artifact for 0 tap, sacrifice add 3 mana of any one color, spend its only mana to cast your commander. So obviously with this, you can easily get your commander out on turn 1, and also keep this in mind. by, having artifacts like this when they actually want to be sacrificed, you've got fodder in your graveyard now, because if you've got ways to actually, either get this back out of your graveyard or, exile from your graveyard, basically any way to have it leave your graveyard, you've got a way to, again, just make 2/2/2 tokens. So just because this is in your graveyard, it can be a great resource for you. And yeah, obviously, if you really are going hard into that kind of, combo off as soon as possible, broken kind of build, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of great mana rocks out there that can help as well. I mean, Mana Vault, a 1 mana rock that essentially taps for 3 mana. I mean, just a more efficient Soul Ring that, doesn't untap. But again, in this kind of a build where you probably have ways to sacrifice artifacts and maybe get them back, it can be even more effective. So obviously there are plenty of ways to generate an absurd amount of mana very quickly, and yeah, definitely enough mana with the right hand and the right build to combo off as early as turn 1 if that's your thing and that's what you want to do. And some of those combos could definitely revolve around cards like Mirror Retriever, Workshop Assistant, and yeah, even Scrap Crawler. Mirror Retriever is a very simple artifact creature, a 1/1 for 2 that has, when it dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So again, when that happens, well, we just, again, with our commander in play, we get those 2/2/2 artifact creature tokens. So of course, we can also run Workshop Assistant. When it dies, exact same thing, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So with just these 2 cards, in a way to sacrifice them, we can just keep looping them. Now we actually have to pay mana, to do so, but we'll talk about that here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, we can just keep getting, Mirror Retriever back to, get into play, to sacrifice it, to get Workshop Assistant back, to do the exact same thing, to keep making more and more tokens. Again, every single time an artifact leaves our graveyard, we are getting 4 power across 2 artifact creature bodies, which is great. And of course, there's even more, broken things that can happen with that where we don't really care too much about their power, but still. And then Scrap Crawler can just provide us a lot of additional value throughout the game. I mean, whenever it or another artifact you control is put away graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. So no matter what artifacts are hitting our graveyard, okay, outside of our artifact tokens, because those won't get us anything back, but whatever artifacts are hitting our graveyard, we can probably get something back from our graveyard. And yeah, again, I mean, just in combination with Mirror Retriever, Scrap Crawler can go infinite as well when we're set up properly. And getting ourselves set up is actually quite simple. I mean, Ashnod's Altar or Krark Clan Ironworks will do the trick for us. Ashnod's Altar says sacrifice a creature, add colorless to your mana pool. So yeah, basically sacrifice a creature, add 2, which is the exact same thing Krark Clan Ironworks does, but it's by sacrificing artifacts. Regardless, again, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about creatures like, Mirror Retriever, Workshop Assistant, or Scrap Crawler, those are artifact creatures. So either of these can sacrifice them for mana. And then, of course, again, when we do get an artifact out of our graveyard and into our hand, we get a trigger from our commander to make 2/2/2 artifact creatures. Which, of course, we can sacrifice again with either of these to make even more mana. So again, every single time we get our commander's trigger, we are getting essentially 4 free mana from either one of these. On top of the mana that we're getting from actually sacrificing the Mirror Retriever or Workshop Assistant. So yeah, this can easily generate us an infinite amount of colorless mana when we're set up properly again, and we can loop again like a Mirror Retriever and Workshop Assistant, on top of basically, again, making us an infinite amount of those Necron Warrior artifact creature tokens. And of course, there are plenty of ways to win from there. I mean, we'll talk about other kinds of death triggers that can help as well. Or, I mean, yeah, if we can just, survive until we go to combat and swing, we can win with that as well. If we can, give them haste or just wait until the next turn. Or, just utilize all that mana maybe for like an Exsanguinate or something like that. Yeah, there are plenty of ways to win when you've got infinite creatures, infinite mana, and you can just keep looping. And again, like I mentioned, being in mono black, you've got access to the best tutors out there. So yeah, you can set yourself up to win quite quickly with this kind of a build. Now, other kinds of cards to consider that can speed things up for you as well are ones that actually reduce the cost of your artifacts with cards like Foundry Inspector, Jor's Familiar, and Cloud Key. Foundry Inspector says artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Jor's Familiar says historic spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so that counts artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. And Cloud Key says when it enters the battlefield, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Spells you cast the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, so yeah, we're going to choose artifact. With a deck that is going to be running an absurd amount of artifacts like this one, yeah, getting just cost reduction can be massive and save us a ton of mana throughout the game. And sure, I mean, if we have other kinds of ways to sacrifice creatures, outside of the outlets that we already talked about, yeah, we could even loop if we have enough, reduction in play. If we've got Mirror Retriever and, again, Workshop Assistant, we've got all 3 of these in play, we can just basically keep casting them for free and sacrificing them for free to another outlet, and we can win from there in many, many ways. And of course, we can also take advantage of all of our death triggers, and there are going to be a lot of them with cards like Grave Pact, Dictative Erebos, and Dark Prophecy. Grave Pact is a brutal card. Whenever a creature controlled dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. And Dictative Erebos is basically the exact same thing, but with flash. But yeah, my goodness, are these brutal. Essentially, our opponents aren't going to be able to keep any creatures on the board. Because again, by sacrificing, again, say a Mirror Retriever to get an artifact out of our graveyard, okay, our opponents have to sacrifice a creature each. So that's 3 creatures in total, 1 for each opponent. And then we get, again, because we had an artifact leave our graveyard, we get 2/2/2 artifact creatures. We sacrifice those if we want to as well. Our opponents sacrifice 2 more creatures. So again, essentially for just sacrificing a Mirror Retriever or whatnot, just sacrificing 1 actual creature, we get to make our opponent sacrifice 9 in total because of the tokens that we can make and the tokens that we can sacrifice. But on top of hurting our opponents, we can also benefit ourselves with a card like Dark Prophecy. Whenever a creature controlled dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Yeah, 1 life for 1 card is a deal I will make any day of the week. Now, obviously, keep in mind that if you're trying to go infinite, you obviously, could just take yourself out with a card like this, so you got to be careful. But of course, there are also plenty of ways to, gain life while you're doing this too. Regardless, this can draw you a ton of cards throughout the game. Again, especially, in that last example I talked about, just sacrificing 3 creatures. Again, this does not specify non-token, so it counts those tokens we make as well, the ones that we're going to sacrifice. So we can draw a lot of cards with this throughout the game, and it can really help us dig for the combo pieces that we need to win. Again, if that's the direction we're going. Some other ways to draw cards, though, come with Species Specialist, Mindblade Render, and Raider Spoils. Species Specialist has, when it enters battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, you may draw a card. Again, this does not specify non-token, so, let's choose either Necron or Warrior, and we can get a lot of card advantage out of this. And unlike Dark Prophecy, there again is no downside to it. We're getting pinged, for it. We do not take any damage for that, so we can, just draw a ton of cards. No big deal. Next up, Mindblade Render says, whenever your opponents are dealt combat damage, if any of that damage was dealt by a warrior, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Again, our commander does make warriors, and our commander can also pump a creature and help, give it menace to help get it through. So yeah, our warriors can actually gain us even more card advantage by swinging at our opponents if that's the direction we want to go. And speaking of which, Raider Spoiler says creature control get +1/+0, so that's a nice additional pump there. And on top of that, whenever a warrior you control deals combination to a player, you may pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card. So yeah, this has the potential to draw us even more cards and get even more damage through. And yeah, again, just some other cards to consider depending on what direction you want to take this deck. And of course, we can also put our opponents out of their misery and take them out with cards like Disciple of the Vault, Marionette Master, and Sir Conrad the Grim. Disciple of the Vault says whenever an artifact is put into a grid from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. Again, with this kind of a deck, we're going to have a ton of artifacts hitting the graveyard and, and potentially an infinite amount, essentially. So yeah, even this 1 mana creature can take out all of our opponents once we're set up properly. But we definitely don't have to go infinite to take our opponents out with Marionette Master, which is a fantastic card for a deck like this. A 1/3 that has Fabricate 3, so we can essentially have it come into play with 3 counters on it. Whenever an artifact we control is put in a grid from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. Basically, yeah, every single time we sacrifice one of our artifacts, we are going to be draining an opponent for 4. Yeah, that can get out of hand very quickly. Again, just with that, Mirror Retriever example that I talked about earlier. Sacrifice Mirror Retriever, get an artifact back from our graveyard, create 2 tokens, sacrifice those 2 tokens. That's 12 total life lost just from that. And with all these artifacts and creatures going here, there, and everywhere, let's talk about Sir Conrad the Grim. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So again, when our artifact creatures are going here, there, or anywhere, again, whether they are dying, whether they are, hitting our graveyard from somewhere else, whether they are, getting back into our hand from our graveyard, Sir Conrad is going to be pinging down all of our opponents. And obviously, yeah, with any of these, if we are, again, going infinite, we obviously, can take out all of our opponents very easily with any of these. Really quick, though, some other cards just, to keep in mind are cards like Relic of Progenitus and Scrabbling Claws, which typically, are going to be used to take out, cards from graveyards, that, it might, go up against, a graveyard synergistic deck. But these can also be used, for our own artifacts and getting them out of our graveyard. Relic Regenus, tap, target player exiles a card from their graveyard. Scrabbling Claws, tap, target player exiles a card from their graveyard. Both just 1-mana artifacts we can get down early, and they can provide us a lot of value throughout the game if, again, we actually want to, get artifacts in our graveyard. Then just, tap these, essentially just exile an artifact from our graveyard, make 2/2/2s. So these can provide a lot of token creation throughout the game. Now, obviously, keep in mind, it really depends upon your build because, with certain builds, again, like that broken one that I was talking about where, where you're getting, an artifact back in your hand, graveyard. You don't want to exile something like a Mirror Retriever, but still, these low-to-the-ground artifacts can provide a lot of value in the right builds. And again, they are flexible, and then they can also provide graveyard hate against our opponent's graveyards too. But now, as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on the Stormlord. Again, I think this commander can be built in a good amount of directions. You do not have to build it, in an infinite combo way. That being said, again, because it does not have, one of those limitations that Wizards seems to be adding lately, like with the, this ability triggers only once each turn. That's not on this. So yeah, this has a ton of potential to become pretty broken with the right setup. And again, in a mono black deck, you've got access to rituals, so you can go very quickly, and also, again, you've got access to, the best tutors out there, so yes, you can go get the exact cards that you need to win. So yeah, I think this commander has a lot of potential to be very powerful with the right build. Not that you have to go in that build, but yeah, definitely has the potential to do so. And again, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you check out that link in the description below for the cards to consider for this commander. And again, if you want to build around this commander, consider picking up some of those cards sooner rather than later. And of course, make sure you stay tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thank you again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.